We
Hello,
are
everyone.
live.
Welcome to another Weather Wednesday. My name is Elias, and as you can tell, we have a special episode for you guys. Joining me today is my producer and camera guy, Jeff Gagne. He has been with me helping out, putting these Weather Wednesdays together. And today we thought we would bring you just a special opportunity to share in a conversation about Weather Wednesday. So if you guys have questions, feel free to enter those. I'm sure Jeff will be challenged to bounce around between our social media page. But what we want to do is kind of answer some questions that you guys might have about Weather Wednesday. So Jeff, thanks for helping to make this happen. What do we have today as far as maybe just some questions that viewers might have?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Elias. I am thrilled to be joining you in front of the camera this time. I've been helping you for a while, produce the Weather Wednesday from behind the scenes. And I've got to tell you, while I thought I enjoyed weather before I joined you for Weather Wednesday, my interest has only grown as you have taught me things, as well as our crowd and our fans watching. And just want to say a quick hello to Amajuri, who jumped on right at 7:30 and joined us. So hello to you.
Thanks for
And yes,
watching.
as right away, as we all say it, but as this COVID world changes things, and we all have to be flexible in how we do things. No, today we can't be right next to our Science on a Sphere in the Space Foundation Discovery Center. I know Elias has a great show for us today where he's going to be helping to show us how he does some of the magic that he does. So I want to get with, there's one question that we've gotten several times is, Elias, you're our Weather Wednesday guy. How did that come to be? How did your interest in weather come about?
Yeah, so that's kind of a two-part question of how did my interest in weather begin, and then also how did Weather Wednesday come to be? So my interest in my study of weather started when I was a high school teacher here in the mountains of Colorado. I spent 3 years teaching up in the mountains, and basically I was asked to create an elective science class. So they said, we want you to teach the basics, physics, chemistry, so on and so forth, but we want you to come up with another science class. And I thought, well, we live here in Colorado, home of a diverse weather situation, diverse weather environment. So wouldn't it be interesting to study the weather? So over the course of a couple years, I developed several meteorological lessons. And then when I came to the Space Foundation, lo and behold, they wanted to create a special meteorology course for teachers. And so I continued that study of weather and meteorology, and kind of gone from there. Now, how that kind of translates into Weather Wednesdays is that real quick we identified that Science on a Sphere is a great tool to communicate weather. And not everybody has a 6-foot globe in the middle of their room that they can view. So we wanted to bring that to you guys so that you could see both current events as well as kind of a teaching tool for you guys to understand more about weather. So that's kind of how it started, is just living here in Colorado and seeing the diversity of weather, and then utilizing the tools that we have around us helped to instigate and start Weather Wednesday. So that's how we started that.
Okay. I actually, as a coworker of yours, I actually never knew that you had started a class at your school before you came to the Discovery Center. That was a weather elective. That's an interesting class. I think I would have wanted to take that one.
Yes.
So with weather being the one that you selected, why should we care about the weather?
Yeah. So now, so why should you care about weather? Well, why are you watching? I would think that you enjoy learning about weather, and weather impacts us all the time. Weather, the clothes that we choose to wear every day is we're impacted by what the weather is going to be like. Sometimes our very safety and security can be affected by the weather. So it's really important for us to know what is going on with the weather. And sometimes weather can produce some really interesting phenomenon. Um, I am constantly surprised with the unpredictability of weather, constantly surprised by just new things that I've never seen before. Every time that you go outside, whether it's a different cloud formation or whether it's, boy, look at all the snow we got on this particular day. A lot of times we're surprised by things out of the ordinary, and weather brings a lot of those out of the ordinary events. And so why should we be interested or concerned about weather? Well, it impacts our daily life, and it brings a source of interest, and if not entertainment, going on. That's why websites like the Weather Channel exist, or that's why the channel, the Weather Channel on TV. That's why it exists, and that's why it's one of the most watched stations on TV. Is just because of the interesting aspects that weather brings. So I don't know about you guys, but do you agree with me in that weather is kind of interesting to learn about, especially those extreme events that we have and that we've seen here in 2020?
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. We were actually just talking before we got on camera about the sage you taught us about just a couple weeks back on Weather Wednesday. And that actually interesting that you ask me that question, because it leads me right into the next one of, as you see our background here, we chose a photo of Hurricane Iota. This season has been mind-bending for hurricanes around the globe, not just here in America. As you've shown us on Science on a Sphere, you're always showing us storms that are hitting different countries all around the world. How has this hurricane season been different than years past?
Yeah, and that's a really great kind of transition, because it builds on the last question. Why should we worry, or why should we care about weather, in particular around the world? And that is because people are impacted by weather all the time. And just because you guys at home or wherever you're at, just because you are not directly affected by some strange or extreme weather events right now, doesn't mean someone else around the world is not experiencing an extreme weather event right now. I believe right now in India, there is some flooding going on because of some cyclones that have hit the southern part of India. This hurricane season 2020, has been the most extreme hurricane season on record. So there have been over 17 individual records set this hurricane season, starting with the number of named storms. So a hurricane goes through different processes. You got tropical storms, that's when they earn their name. Then you got hurricane status, so that's when it reaches a certain strength, and you got hurricane status. So there have been more named storms this year than any time in history. There have been more named storms hitting the United States coast than any time in history. There have been more hurricanes that have hit the US coast than any time in history. you mentioned Hurricane Iota and Hurricane Eta. Both of those hit the exact same place in Honduras and Nicaragua in Central America. That unprecedented. That's never happened before, where a hurricane hit the same exact place. It was a difference of 15 miles. And when you're talking about a hurricane that is literally hundreds of miles across, coming within 15 miles of the same track, and it happened in a 2-week span. Pretty crazy.
I was just going to ask if you knew how apart those two were.
Yeah, so within 2 weeks that happened. And then at one time, this hurricane season, there were 7 named storms in the Atlantic Basin. Never happened before, where there's 7 storms. Also this year, 10 of those hurricane events went under extreme intensification. That means it went from a ho-hum to watch out, it's going to destroy stuff in less than 20 or 48 hours, in less than 2 days. So we had extreme intensification. We had the highest number of storms. We almost ran out of names for these storms. It was not quite the record on financial damage, but definitely. So this kind of encapsulates why we should care about weather and why this hurricane season was so bad. In the country of Honduras, these 2 hurricane storms caused a financial burden on that country where they lost 40% of their GDP, their annual GDP. So 40% of what they usually gain as far as money, financial money, that's how much money it costs them in damages. They lost over 110 bridges. They lost 200 and something main roads, there was over 200 and some washouts in their roads. It's going to take them years to recover. And people in Honduras are not very wealthy. So what's going to happen is the people there in Honduras are going to migrate to other countries. And so this country of Honduras, they said they have, because of these 2 hurricanes, they have been knocked backwards in their abilities 22 years. So they have been set back 22 years in their financial and in their economic gains because of these 2 storms. So that's why weather is important, is because people around the world are suffering because of extreme weather events. And we notice that these extreme weather events, such as hurricanes, are only going to continue and intensify in years to come.
Wow, that's incredible. I like we started, you are a bigger weather geek than I am. So I haven't done as much reading and learning about what has happened throughout this season. But one of the things, and the data that you just gave us, one of the things that hits me all the time is you and I both work at the Space Foundation Center. And when I think about weather on Earth, I think about, we are thinking about how we as humans are affected by the weather. But I get a reminder of just how small human beings are when you think about the size of weather systems. And right now we're just talking about hurricanes. Obviously, we're in Colorado. I'm looking out the window here, and it snowed here yesterday. So there are lots of different type of weather that affect the planet, both in positive and negative ways. How spent so long at the Space Foundation Discovery Center? Can you talk a little bit about how space and weather are related?
Yeah, so how is space and weather related? So first off, we learn a lot about the weather from objects in space. So we can start off with satellites that bring us data from space. So we use different instruments that can help us predict and help us give advanced warning of things like these hurricanes, or maybe a big snow event coming to the Northeast, or something like that. So we use satellites, we use space objects to help predict. And then we have this concept of space weather itself. What is space weather? The sun is not only giving us heat and not only giving us light for plants to grow and for us to stay warm, but it's also producing these charged particles. So the sun is emulating these charged particles out into space. And when those interact with our magnetic field on the Earth, that is what scientists call space weather. We have this whole other division that doesn't have a whole lot to do with air and temperature and stuff like that, but it has a lot to do with space physics, with different particles, charged particles coming from the sun. So space weather impacts us whether we know it or not. And then space, we use that as a tool to look down and to study the weather here on the Earth, so that scientists and engineers can help to prevent loss of life, because that's ultimately what scientists want to do with these weather satellites, is prevent loss of life and hopefully loss of damage as well.
Sure. So I want to shift our conversation a little bit for our viewers and all of our weather geek fans. We've already mentioned it a couple of times. You are a bigger weather geek than I am. But the more we talk about it, the more I want to spend a little more time becoming more of a weather geek. Perhaps I'll do that through this next Colorado winter that's on its way for us. What are some ways that we can all, you, me, and those of us that are watching that love weather, what are some ways that we can indulge our weather geekiness while we're at home?
Yeah, and so this is something that I would love to share with you. I want to share with you guys resources that you can do at home, so that you can learn more. Weather Wednesdays here won't always be around to inform you of what's going on. And in next week's episode, I think we're planning on sharing with you a little behind the scenes of what Weather Wednesday is like. But just for today, let me just bring up one website that I have referenced before here on Weather Wednesdays, and that is this website called earth.nullschool.net. And you can see this crazy colorful pattern going on your screen right now. This is the jet stream. Okay, so this is the highway that brings these weather systems our direction. And you can see that the highway is going way up north, up into Canada, and then comes way down south, all the way down into Mexico, and then goes way
Elias,
back up north again.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt, just so we can put that website on the screen for everybody. Could you say that one again?
Sure. So it's earth.nullschool, N-U-L-L, school.net. And so earth.nullschool.net, this is one of the ones that I like to go to, because you can see with this big scoop up north, this is called a ridge. And so this ridge tells me that folks on the West Coast are experiencing some nice weather today. And then as it scoops down, we here in Colorado are experiencing, or did experience, cloudiness yesterday, and also some windy events. And then it's going to scoop back up here to the Northeast, which is going to bring moisture to Newfoundland, up in Canada area. So you can see in the jet stream right there, that is where the weather is going. And then if you click on Earth on the bottom left, if you click on Earth, you can see that there's lots of things that you can change to get different views of our Earth. And so this is surface winds. You can see that it's pretty calm around the US, except right in the middle here. That's where we got some nice north winds blowing. It seemed kind of cold. And then you can also see just the interaction of winds off the coast here. Notice that there's more wind over the oceans, and that's because there's not much land in the way. So that allows wind to kind of have its course. And so we can learn a lot from just looking at wind around the world. So that's one website that I'm going to leave you guys with, just to explore around and to kind of see what that is. And I encourage you to ask questions as you explore this website. Shoot us questions about how to use this to interpret weather. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you guys. And I appreciate all these questions, and I appreciate all this interest about weather. I hope that you guys can do this at home and enjoy just the weather wherever you are.
Elias, thanks for showing us that one. While I had seen the earth.school.net before, it was for cursory glances, so I had never clicked on the Earth button down in the lower corner to see just how many different options there are in terms of what you can do. And it really is telling. There's so much information in just a single screen that it makes you want to learn more. Like that, as soon as you pulled up the winds, you could see most of the United States was blank, but right there in the middle of the country, there were those winds blowing down from and just from the picture, knowing that the arrows are, or the track is going from north to south, I could almost just feel that it was cold.
Brings a little
just
shiver to you.
warm.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is about our time for today. I have really enjoyed, as much as I love our Science on a Sphere at the Discovery Center, I got to tell you, we probably would not have done this had we been in our usual spots. We'd probably have the sphere over your shoulder, which is always a cool thing to do. But some of the information on earth.nullschool.net looks exactly like the information you've been showing us on Science on a Sphere week after week. To know that while we've all got our laptops on our laps almost constantly now, just with the way the world is right now, to know that you could take a 5-minute break and just pull up, earth.nullschool.net, or next week, I'm sure you're going to share some more websites with us, to know that we can just take a 5-minute break from our work and our email and the regular grind and just find out, hey, what hurricanes are building. I did just hear, we are now in December 2nd. So I did hear the news, the weatherman say, well, we are now officially out of hurricane season, because apparently hurricanes and the atmosphere know that the calendar is from November 30th to December 1st. So the storms are just not going to form anymore. Yep. But then he followed it up with, well, but storms are still possible. Well, that was kind of a waste of 2 sentences on air, wasn't it?
That shows you how little we actually know about weather. We can go into generalities. We can see patterns in weather, but we can't actually predict what's going to exactly happen. And that's why there will always be a need for good meteorologists.
Very good. Do you have any final words for today, this being our different episode, a little more interview, a little more talking directly to our viewers? Anything you want to tell them before we sign off for the morning?
Well, just thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate when we got this Weather Wednesday started. I appreciate my friend and colleague, Colleen, who was my first producer and also kind of the co-starter of this Weather Wednesday. I appreciate just my family and friends for watching. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoy learning about weather. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, where we'll continue talking about some behind the scenes on weather. Until next time, go and enjoy the weather. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.